Welcome to the Autism Infocast. I'm Peter Clark, founder and chairman of the Autism Info Center. Our podcasts delve into every part of autism and neurodiversity, and we want to help you spread understanding, respect, and kindness for those whose lives are affected. Whether you're autistic yourself, or whether you know or care for someone who's autistic, or maybe you just come into contact with autistic people in everyday life. Either way, please feel free to check out our hundreds of articles, videos, books, and training courses at autisminfocenter.org. And I'll leave you now in the capable hands of today's hosts, Jemima and Theo. Over to you.
Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're looking into something really fascinating, drawing from some material you shared with us about an effort that's huge, deeply impactful, but often, well, completely invisible. Just think for a second what you see on the surface when someone's interacting, how they act socially. It might just be the tip of the iceberg. There could be this massive, constant effort underneath just to get through the day.
That's a really critical point, yeah. For a lot of people, especially autistic individuals, just navigating a world that's mostly set up for neurotypical ways of thinking, it demands this exhausting, continuous, conscious effort to manage how they come across. And like you said, it's not casual. It's this deep, often hidden thing called masking or sometimes camouflaging.
Masking or camouflaging. Okay, so our goal in this podcast is really to sort of pull back the curtain on that. We want to explore what masking actually is, why people do it, the really significant costs it can have, and maybe most importantly, how understanding and acceptance from all of us are just vital. Vital to create a world where this kind of draining performance isn't so necessary. I'm really struck by that phrase you used, invisible labor. The sheer cognitive, emotional energy involved. It's kind of staggering when you think about it.
It really is, and it's fascinating because it goes way beyond just fitting in or, being polite. For many, it becomes a basic survival strategy, a constant, deliberate act to try and mesh with social situations that are just inherently difficult for them and the people around them. They might have absolutely no idea this whole intricate process is even happening.
Okay, so let's really dig into that then. When we say autistic masking, what are we actually talking about? It sounds like much more than just, putting on a brave face.
Oh, much more, exactly. Masking is... well, it's a process, sometimes conscious, sometimes not entirely conscious, where autistic people learn, they practice, and then they perform social behaviors. Behaviors considered typical in a neurotypical world, even when those behaviors feel totally unnatural or really uncomfortable for them, it means actively suppressing their own natural, innate autistic traits.
Like what kind of traits?
Things like stimming, those self-regulating movements like hand flapping or rocking, or maybe their communication style, which can be very direct.
Which can be misinterpreted.
Absolutely misinterpreted, yes. Or their sensory sensitivities, maybe finding bright lights or loud noises really difficult. So they suppress those things and substitute them with learned mannerisms, things they've picked up as being more socially acceptable.
Wow, that sounds incredibly taxing. Like a constant mental calculation going on. You called it a performance earlier. Can you expand on that? What does that constant performance really involve?
Well, imagine you had to manually figure out every single social interaction, like consciously. Not just the big ones, but every little chat, every glance. You'd have to think, okay, when do I smile? How long do I hold it? How much eye contact is right? Not too much, not too little. What's the next thing I should say so it sounds, normal? And am I constantly checking my body language? Does this look natural? That's not just an analogy. For many autistic people who mask, that is their reality. It's this nonstop demanding performance, and it just drains this huge amount of cognitive and emotional energy, leaves them completely wiped out.
That mental load just sounds enormous. It really shines a light on that invisible part you mentioned. But why? Why would someone feel they have to hide who they are like that? What drives this exhausting performance?
Yeah, the why is really powerful, and it often stems from years of social feedback, There's this basic human need we all have to feel safe, to be understood, accepted. From a really young age, many autistic kids start to realize that their natural ways of being, how they move or communicate or react, are seen as different.
And being seen as different. What does that usually mean in practice? For a kid, or even an adult?
Well, the consequences can be harsh. It often means social exclusion, just being left out, or constantly being misunderstood by peers, even teachers or other adults. And sadly, it can often lead to bullying, too. So masking becomes this protective shield. Sometimes it's not even a fully conscious choice at first. It's an attempt to bridge that gap they feel, to avoid being singled out, and just to try and get that basic human need met: acceptance, belonging. It's not just about wanting to fit in. It's often about minimizing real harm.
Okay, so beyond just wanting to belong, are there specific negative things masking helps people actively avoid, like specific judgments?
Oh, absolutely. Think about it. Unmasked, autistic behaviors can be seriously misinterpreted by people who don't understand autism. For instance, that direct communication style. It might come across as rude or blunt, maybe even aggressive, when that's not the intention at all.
Right, they're just being clear.
Exactly, or stimming those repetitive movements that help them regulate. To outsiders, it might look weird or distracting. Even something like avoiding eye contact, which might actually help an autistic person focus or feel less overwhelmed, can be read by neurotypical people as being dishonest or uninterested or maybe disrespectful. So yeah, masking is a way to try and dodge those negative judgments, avoid criticism, maybe even avoid actual punishments or getting into trouble at school or work.
I can definitely see that. It sounds like they're constantly trying to play by a set of rules that aren't written down anywhere.
That's a perfect way to put it. Society runs on this incredibly complex network of unwritten social rules, right? Expectations that neurotypical people often just seem to absorb as they grow up. For an autistic person, masking means having to consciously study those rules, dissect them, and then mimic the expected behaviors. It's this huge intellectual effort just to seem socially competent, to navigate job interviews or office politics or even just a casual party. It requires a level of constant analysis most people just don't even think about.
You've painted such a clear picture of the effort involved. Can we maybe go a bit deeper into the how? What are some of these strategies? You mentioned they can be quite sophisticated.
Yeah, they really can be. One of the most common ones, and often one of the most difficult, is forcing eye contact. For a lot of autistic folks, direct eye contact isn't just uncomfortable. It can feel intensely overwhelming, distracting, sometimes even physically painful.
Painful, wow.
Yeah, but they push themselves to do it because it's such a strong social expectation in many cultures. It's like deliberately overriding their own sensory system.
So it's not about not wanting to connect. It's a genuine sensory challenge. What about other social stuff?
Exactly right. Another big strategy is mimicking social behaviors. And this isn't spontaneous usually. It often involves consciously studying people, maybe even rehearsing common phrases or jokes they know work, or having conversational scripts ready for different situations.
Like actual scripts?
Sometimes, yeah, or at least a mental flowchart. It can also mean mirroring body language or facial expressions, trying to match the other person to seem more engaged or attuned. Even if internally they're not feeling that connection or emotion in the same way, it's kind of like having this internal social cheat sheet they're constantly referring to.
That sounds utterly exhausting. Like you said, an actor always on stage, but it's their actual life. What about those self-regulating things? Stimming, you mentioned suppressing that.
Yes, suppressing stimming is huge. So autistic people naturally stim, hand flapping, rocking, pacing, making small sounds maybe. These actions are really important. They provide comfort, help manage sensory input, regulate emotions, especially under stress.
They're functional then.
Highly functional. But a major part of masking is actively trying to stop doing those things or hide them when in public or around others. Even though those actions provide crucial internal relief, it takes enormous energy to constantly hold that back, to deny their system that coping mechanism.
And thinking about sensory environments, parties, shops, busy streets, which can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
How does masking fit in there?
Right. They often learn to just tolerate sensory overload. That means pushing through really intense environments like a loud concert, a bright flickering office light, a crowded mall without showing any outward sign of distress. They might look totally fine on the outside, maybe even chatting away. But inside, it's a massive struggle. And this often leads to a meltdown or a shutdown later when they finally get somewhere private and safe. Because they've just pushed their system way too far. It's like a delayed reaction.
It's becoming really clear that while masking might help someone get by in the short term, the long-term price must be incredibly high. What's the biggest impact you see from this?
You're absolutely right. The long-term toll on health and well-being is, well, it's significant, profoundly damaging, actually. probably one of the biggest, most debilitating consequences is something called autistic burnout.
Autistic burnout. Okay.
And this isn't just, oh, I'm feeling tired. It's this state of profound physical, mental, and emotional exhaustion. It comes from the sheer cumulative weight of constantly masking, constantly navigating a world not built for you. It's debilitating. It can lead to losing skills they once had, maybe temporarily, sometimes longer term, and just a complete inability to cope with everyday life demands. Imagine being so drained that getting out of bed feels impossible.
That sounds like a level of exhaustion most people can't even fathom. Truly crushing. And all this constant pressure, performing. It must wreck mental health, too.
It absolutely does. The relentless need to perform, the background anxiety of maybe being found out or judged, and just continuously suppressing your true self. It dramatically increases the risk for serious mental health conditions. We see much higher rates of anxiety disorders, clinical depression, various mood disorders among autistic people who mask heavily. That chronic stress is just an enormous burden to carry day in, day out. It really impacts their whole system.
It makes me wonder, too, if you spend years, maybe decades, playing a role, performing this persona, do you lose track of who you actually are underneath it all?
That is another really profound, deeply personal cost. The loss of authentic identity. After so long performing a version of yourself that isn't really you, yeah, people can lose touch with their genuine preferences, their real needs, their actual personality. It can lead to this deep identity crisis, feeling like a stranger to yourself. Like, who am I when I'm not performing? They might not even know what they truly enjoy anymore because they spent so long trying to fit other people's expectations.
I'm thinking about diagnosis. If someone is masking really effectively, does that make it harder for them to get diagnosed and get the right support?
Oh, it's a major barrier. Yeah. Highly effective masking can lead to significantly delayed autism diagnoses. Sometimes people aren't diagnosed until well into adulthood. Because if someone gets really good at hiding or camouflaging their autistic traits, their underlying needs or differences might just be completely missed by family, teachers, even doctors. And this seems to be particularly true for girls and women. They're often socialized differently, maybe encouraged more towards compliance or being socially aware, so the pressure to mask can be even more intense.
So they could go decades without understanding why they struggle.
Decades without that crucial self-understanding, without finding their community, without getting the right support, living with these chronic unnamed challenges and feeling fundamentally misunderstood. It's a huge issue.
Wow. This whole exploration of masking really underscores the incredible resilience, actually, of autistic people and the just immense unseen effort they put in simply to exist in a world not always designed with them in mind. It's a powerful picture of hidden strength, but also hidden struggle.
And what's so crucial to grasp, and this really comes through in the material you shared, is that the answer to the harm masking causes, it isn't for autistic people to just get better at masking. That's not the solution. The real lasting solution lies with society. It lies with all of us. We need to become fundamentally more accepting, more adaptable, more genuinely inclusive.
So the onus shifts. It's not on the individual to change themselves into knots, but on society, on us collectively to change. How do we even start doing that? What does that look like practically?
It means we have to actively work towards creating environments, homes, schools, workplaces, communities where autistic people feel safe enough, understood enough, and valued enough to just be themselves authentically. That requires a pretty big shift. A shift in our understanding, definitely, but also in our behavior and even in how we design spaces and structure interactions. It's about building bridges, really, not demanding everyone conform to one single way of being.
So what can we do as individuals listening to this? What are some concrete actions?
Well, it starts with awareness, right? Paying attention. Noticing when someone might be struggling to adapt rather than just jumping to conclusions about them being rude or uninterested. It means educating ourselves, going beyond the stereotypes we might hold about autism, really recognizing and ideally celebrating neurological diversity as just part of the human spectrum.
Celebrating it, not just tolerating it.
Exactly. And critically, it means actively working to shift that burden away from the autistic individual having to spend all their precious energy trying to fit in and towards us, society, taking responsibility for genuinely accommodating and embracing different ways of thinking, communicating, and being. When we can foster that kind of genuine acceptance, the pressure to mask lessens. And that allows autistic people to conserve their energy, to connect more authentically, and ultimately to thrive and contribute all their unique strengths without this terrible hidden cost.
That perspective really shifts the focus, doesn't it? Away from seeing individual deficits and towards seeing the need for societal change. For acceptance, it makes you think about all the hidden efforts people around us might be making every day.
Absolutely. And what's really powerful is empathy. Even small changes in how we understand things, our willingness to learn, how we interact day to day, those small shifts can genuinely create much more inclusive, much more accepting environments for everyone. It's about valuing the whole range of human experience.
So as we finish up this podcast today, maybe something to reflect on is this. How can each of us, just in our daily lives, in our interactions, help create spaces where everyone feels safer to be their authentic selves, without that hidden, exhausting cost of always performing? We really encourage you to think about your own assumptions, maybe do a little more reading about neurodiversity. It's a path of understanding that really benefits everyone.
Thank you, Jemima and Theo. I'm sure we've all learned something there today. Don't forget to visit autisminfocenter.org to hear our other episodes, browse our library of articles, see our inspiring range of books, watch our videos about autism and neurodiversity, and find out about training courses that can help you or your organization make the world a safer, happier, and more meaningful place for us all. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, please feel free to spread the word about Autism Info Center. A quick mention on your socials is always appreciated. Until next time, this is Peter Clark from autisminfocenter.org. Have a great day.